Hi everyone, my name is Owen Magabinawo and welcome to HYVA. And what we do here is we show entrepreneurs how to focus on their income producing activities by sharing with them, information about outsourcing and how they can work with virtual assistant. But that aside, one of the things I also do on my blog is I bring on successful entrepreneurs to come on this show to share with us their challenges as well as their successes so that we can all be inspired and learn from them and implement the ideas in their business. And today I have Walt Ribero from For Orchestra.com on the show, really to talk about. I put out a query out there trying to find out, entrepreneurs who have had spectacular failures in their business and how exactly they overcame them, so that we can learn from the lessons and go ahead and implement some of the things in our business. And today I have Walt. So Walt, go ahead, introduce
Hey,
yourself to my community, and we get started.
hey, Owen, what's up? So what I do is I arrange pop songs for orchestras, and so I'll take a song by a Billboard or by like an iTunes top 10 chart topper, and we'll arrange those for different orchestras, be it the Boston Pops or the London Philharmonic or whatever orchestra it is. We take songs by Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, or whatever, and we arrange them for orchestras. So that's what we do. But that all kind of that was years in the making. So I went through many failures, which has been kind of crazy.
So we're going to go through them, especially the spectacular ones that come to mind one by one. And so let's just give the listeners so far kind of like a context as to, like a context actually, as to what is this whole entrepreneurship thing start for you, first of all.
Well, so the one thing about being like an entrepreneur is that I always kind of like I never put it on its own pedestal. I always just felt like that it was the idea of just being a starter. I mean, that's really what they should call them. It's like I'm just a person who has an idea and just has the guts to start something. And it's like I don't know if that's really a different breed of people or like that whatever it is that I do, it's just through a series of failures and kind of keep learning. So years ago, I released a CD and that failed, and from what I learned from that failure is what helped me learn how to do For Orchestra correctly. So going
And,
through
and,
the
and
whole
let's even spend some time in that, because I think the more details we can give about that story itself, there's something we can learn from that. So based on what I know is like this was after college. You started the idea to the CD was a compilation of your own original music, right? Go ahead, take
yeah.
it from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the actual album was just 12 original tracks that I wrote. It was a CD that had 12 pieces, but the first piece was kind of like an introduction piece. So it actually introduced the 12 melodies, and then each piece going forward was the development of one of those 12 melodies, and that's where you have, or one of the 11 melodies, and that's where you have the 12 pieces in the music. And so I thought it was great. It was my idea of, finally publishing my music. I was going to try and sell a lot of CDs and make money and do it for a living, and then try and get my music to be performed by an orchestra. And that never happened. But the whole reason why that even worked, I came up with that idea, is because orchestras don't play new music. It's like they play music by dead composers, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Mozart, and that always kind of bothered me. So publishing the album was my idea of being a starter, of saying, well, I don't really like the way that the orchestral repertoire, you know, is. So the way to, kind of combat that is to kind of, rather than wait for change, kind of make the change yourself. But the CD didn't work. It wasn't successful financially, and
So what happened though?
it
Like,
was tough.
what exactly, from your looking back now, do you think made it not work? Was it the marketing? What exactly did you find looking back did not make it work?
Yeah, well, so the things that I always look back at is that there's no question for an entrepreneur in today's world, there's no better time ever in the history of the world to ever start a company than today,
Why is
or
that?
tomorrow. Because for me with music specifically, but I think it's across the board, is that no matter what you do, the idea of self-publishing, now that you're in control, there's no gatekeepers, so that's great. And I think that there's more music today than there's ever been. So from a creative standpoint, like your peers are doing stuff, and that I think that the turnaround rate is actually a big thing too. I was talking to someone about this the other day, is that I think starting a company before you had to have this big infrastructure, like you had to have 20 employees, distribution, marketing, manufacturing, production. You would have all these things lined up,
Yeah.
and today it's so much different. And what I also think is interesting from a content perspective is that the products today can be turned around within 24 to 48 hours. If a big thing hits today, a big like a big artist on iTunes or on Amazon or something, I can arrange their song within 24 hours, maybe 30, 20, maybe like 48 hours, and get it out to the marketplace within a couple days. So I think that's really effective from a consumer point of view, that it's topical and that it's recent, and then from my point of view of always trying to stay above the edge, trying to stay up with content. I think it's interesting.
So was
for
it that the
creator and
technology was not available when you did your initial CD compilation? Is that the main takeaway in that point?
Well, yeah. So the technology is better in the sense that the orchestral sounds, the actual sound libraries themselves, sound a lot better, and the technology is a lot faster. So what that does for me is that I can now work out of my laptop. Is that my laptop is just a 15-inch MacBook Pro, and my old music studio back in 2005, 2006 was huge. It had, I needed like a big sound system, and so now I'm very portable. And so portable is effective from my perspective because now I can do everything on my phone and everything on my laptop. So when I go to visit a client or an orchestra or whatever it is, I can bring my work with me. So I'm more efficient, I'm more portable, and that's, I think, incredibly effective. For a person who's trying to start a business, it's important that that you try and be as efficient as possible, in terms of time management and, continually watching this little baby of yours kind of grow, like you always just want to be, by your, in my sense, I always want to be near my work and just,
Definitely, and I'm curious though because I want to get walk the listener all the way from the mistakes and the issues and the experiences that you had previously and to where you are right now. So when the first project, which based on what you told me previously, you spent about $15,000 on it. It didn't work. That must have been very painful, I guess. And then what was the next part of this journey exactly?
Okay, so the $15,000 came from my work study. So if anyone, I'm sure that a lot of your audience is familiar that when you're in school, in college, you're trying to, pay student loans and, actually have a life in college. Maybe you want to go out with friends and have a drink. So then you get a job when you're in college. And so my accumulative money throughout those 3 years, 4 years, I think it was 3 because then I transferred. When I was in Philadelphia, it was about $15,000, and I poured everything into this album. So that was difficult because when that failed, when the CD failed, at that point, after a year, I was 23 at that point because I graduated college when I was 22. I had no money. So I had no money, I had no income, I had no job. I couldn't get unemployment because I didn't have, an employer. So then, what do you do? Do you get another job? But then the thing that I always felt deep in my heart, and this is what I say to people all the time, is you always want to stay in your trade. Always. There's a level of, I feel like that what separates one person from the next is the mind. And when you're working, when you have your mindset, whether it's your sort of car company or music company or whatever it is, widgets, selling tables, chairs, whatever. Whatever it is you're passionate about doing, you've got to stay within that industry so that every day when you wake up, you don't forget about what it is you are set out to do. And so I could easily have went to go work at McDonald's within the first year that I got, that the CD didn't work out, to kind of make the money to get back into the music industry. But at that point, I always felt like that when you cross that road, it's very difficult to get back into the industry. I mean, for one, it doesn't look good on your resume, which I'm not too
Yeah.
crazy about resumes anyway. And then two is it's not good for your networking because you don't need to network with people outside of your industry. And three, the mind is gone. Like at that point, you're not waking up, you're not excited to go work. And when that part of what you do is lost, then I feel like that it's very difficult to get back into it, and you tend to forget, not to forget, but you tend to lose that drive. And I feel like that the drive is a big part of success.
So in order for you to keep that drive and to keep that whole network of people within your niche, you went ahead to, what was it? You got a job and
Yeah, so when that didn't work out, I came up with the idea of, I mean, at this point I didn't have any money, and I had a camera that my parents bought me for Christmas. It was called a Canon, I think it's Canon, a Canon ZR-85, I think it was. It was just like a cheap, camera. And there was this new company in 2006, 2005 that was called YouTube, So I was like, well, it's kind of a slow day today, and I have nothing else to do, but I'm just going to shoot a quick YouTube video, teach people how to read music. So I uploaded it to YouTube, and within like a month, it got like 100,000 views or something. And so I was like,
wow.
that's kind of where the light hit me. And I said, well, if there's people who want free music lessons, what if I did something like this every single day? And the business model was, I teach music for free. I teach music every day. The students get their daily music lessons for free, and that all the products in my video would be sponsored. So like my guitar would be sponsored, my shirt would be sponsored, the amplifier in the back would be product placement. I mean, it was all very strategic, and so I did that for about 5 months until I got a community of about 20,000 subscribers. Then I started to approach like amplifier companies and guitar companies, and they each were paying me, I think my first sale was like $50 or something. And then the next month it was $100, and then I got 2 sponsors. So I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm making $200 a month now. Next month I made $300 a month. Next month I got another sponsor. I upped the price. Then I was making $500-$600. There was a time when by the time I finished the show, I had 10 sponsors, exclusive. It wasn't like I had 2 guitar companies. I was like, if you want to be in my show, you can be the exclusive guitar company and, tackle the online market. And so they loved it. The students loved it because they got it for free. I loved it because I was working in music. So I got to network with like music magazines, guitar companies. I got to do press with music, like journalists and stuff. So I stayed within my trade, and that always kind of kept me interested. So two things is that by the time I ended the show, I think it was like maybe like two years or so. By the time I ended it, I was having 10 sponsors each paying me $1,000 a month.
Wow.
So I was making $10,000 a month, and then I moved from Philadelphia to Manhattan.
Before you even jump into the part where you moved from Philadelphia to Manhattan, that story of being able to get sponsorship, okay, we see the trend of you starting at from $50 all the way to then pay $1,000. Is that a month, right? And you had 10 sponsors, right?
But now here's how I knew that $1,000 a month was a great target. For two reasons. The number one like business rule is you keep on raising your price until people start dropping out. Then you just lower it a little bit, and then that's where you know what the market can bear. So I kept on raising it to 1,000. Then people started to complain. I dropped it to maybe like 900, 950, and then everyone was happy. So I just left it at that. But also at the time, my community kept on building, and I always used the internet as a big marketing tool to tell them to tell my sponsors when you're in this video, you're archived for life. Even today, if people were to Google how to read music or guitar chords or whatever it is across the board, Walt Ribero, his videos are the first hit on Google. I mean, and that's fact, across the board. So that was, I think, very attractive to them, and then I lived up to it.
And one of the things I want to do during this interview too is you made a very good point in terms of how you went out to find sponsors. And one of the things too is I'm doing a lot of blogging myself, sharing great interviews like this with other entrepreneurs. To an extent, I want to actually have the blog pay for itself for my time spending to do this, right? So
Mhm.
people might be thinking about this and say, oh, I'm trying to create I have a product or service and I want to create content around my product and service. And at the same time, who knows, I want to also get sponsors for the blogging itself so that the blogging can pay for itself, like how you did. And so I'm curious, how exactly did you go out to find those sponsors, right? And what was the selling point you gave to them to get them to want to even sign up? Because especially in the beginning, you didn't even have that much of a community. So
Yeah.
give us that detail on that too as well.
Okay, so the way that I did it is that you have to find out who your competition is. For me, there was no other online music shows. So who's my competition? Well, it's online music lesson magazines. So and they all have websites. So the way that I did it is I went to the respective magazines. I mean, there were maybe like 4 or 5 like big hitters, and I went to their websites and I would download their ad rate sheet off their website. I mean, it was open. It was right there. It was, advertisers click here, click there. It says, if you want to advertise, download our PDF of our ad rate sheet and contact, webmaster at domain.com or whatever, or call us at this number. So I noticed that across the board, a magazine like here, like let me just get like a basic. I don't even know if I even have any magazines. I guess this is a good one here. So like here's like a basic magazine, and so through here, well, no, this isn't really a good one. But so they have like the ads on the back, here on the back cover. The back flap cover is like really expensive and it's in color. So the average rate for all of these ads were give or take about $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and so that's for like a one-page color ad is about I'd say about $4,000 a month. So then I started looking up what's their circulation, and so most of their circulation was like 30,000 people or 40,000 people in terms of subscribers. And I thought to myself, well, I'm almost as big as a magazine with 20,000 subscribers. And
Subscribers in the sense of people that joined your email list, or subscriber in the sense of people that were watching your videos and you had like an average of views? I'm trying to get more details about that.
Okay, so that's actually good. That's actually a good question. It was a little bit different. It was mainly like YouTube subscribers. Like right now, I have about 20,000 subscribers. I haven't really touched it much since for like a year or two. That was for YouTube subscribers. My average views were much more than my subscribers, because either they got passed around and people didn't subscribe, or people Google it and they don't subscribe. So my average views were maybe, I don't really know the metrics, I guess maybe 50,000 a day, 60,000 a day.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, like it's not. Well, I mean, there's much more successful YouTube channels in terms of like entertainment channels, or even other music channels that maybe interview bands, or maybe other music education channels that maybe teach you how to play guitar or whatever. But for me, I was very focused on doing it every day, and having the content be very specific to what the community wanted. The big thing that I feel in today's world for an entrepreneur is that you want your community to be invested in what you do. People feel much more personal on things when they have to invest in them. So for me, when I arrange a different song every week for a different orchestra, I have my community vote on which song that they want me to vote for. Like which of the iTunes top 10 songs do they want me to vote for? And so that winning song is the one that I generally arrange. And because they have to invest, they have to vote, they have to tell their friends to make it win. When it wins and when it gets published within a couple days, they feel like that they have contributed to it. So that level, I think, helps sales a lot.
Community, definitely.
Builds community, helps sales. It shows that you're one of them, that they're one of you, and it's fun, and it's also almost like idiot-proof in the sense that you don't have to worry about what your product is. I mean, for me to release a song, I want to make sure that I make enough sales to break even. So how do I know which song that I'm supposed to arrange? Well, the easiest way is to ask the community. There's no way that sales are going to be bad because they've told you which one that they want. And so there's no way that, if you want to know which one of the 10 songs this week, the top 10 songs this week is the best one to arrange, and everyone says, do, this Britney Spears track because it sounds awesome, then it's pretty much...
It's very dead simple because you've gotten that information from
it's dead simple.
And that is your current way of revenue right now in terms of how you have your business going on. And what I want to do is I want to give users kind of keep them, listening to how you, came to this point, because there is a journey of how you got to this point. And going back to that point of how you found your what's it called, the sponsors, right? So what you did was you figured out, okay, the companies that so to speak were your kind of competition, which were music magazines, right? And then you looked at their ad rates to see what they were charging in terms of what they were charging people that wanted to put ads on their websites or their magazines. And then you look at their subscription in terms of circulation, how many people were they sending out those magazines to. And it turns out that in terms of subscribers that you had on YouTube, you kind of had the same amount of numbers, right? So at that point, you take it from there, because I think you didn't connect the dots on that point. It's from there you, in terms of connecting to the to the sponsors.
Yeah, so there's two other missing links that I forgot to mention is the one that you brought up. The idea that I have an online interactive audience. I mean, interactive is the key word here. Because when you approach a sponsor, when you cold call a sponsor, well, before you even cold call a sponsor, how do you know where the sponsors are? So then you buy for $3 or $4, you buy a magazine off the newsstand, one of your competitors, and you flip through and you find out who's the sponsors in the magazine. Then you call them up and you say, hey, listen, I know that you just paid $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 for this, half-page or one-page color advertisement. I'll do, I have an online interactive community that's the same size as that magazine, but instead of $4,000, I'll only charge you $500, and you just get them in. And so then that, I think, was incredibly attractive to them, but it's also incredibly risky, though, too, because this is back in 2007. I mean, the internet was nothing like it is today. I mean, today you got Twitter and Facebook, and it's normal to share, and you pay your phone bill online. But 2007, it was before, everything broke, and people weren't sure about advertising online. I mean, sure, you had, Google AdSense and all, but no one really... did in-video flash banner overlays and videos. I mean, that was kind of new and no one was really sure. So it was a tough sell. But after they got on, they saw of how their Twitter audience grew or their online presence grew, and a lot of comments and a lot of user feedback. They got a lot more emails about their products, which was good. I didn't do an affiliate program with sales, which I think in hindsight maybe I should have done. But if I sold a guitar, I didn't really worry about it. So that's how I got the sponsors on board, and that's how I found out who they were. And then there was another question that you had too.
And so
what was the big?
The thing was you now. I mean, I even forgot my questions just to be honest. Okay. But anyways, you basically connected the dots. You contacted these people, and now they were sponsors. You give them a smaller price to get on board and test. And then I'm trying to figure out for them, because they're trying to test to make sure to validate that this is actually something that makes sense for them. What was the benefits that they were getting? Because obviously, if they stayed after the first month, they got something, right? So if it wasn't working for them, they wouldn't have continued. From your perspective, what exactly did they gain from that relationship with you, I guess?
I think that what got them is the idea of how it was that a magazine... And this is for my business model, but it's different for every business, right? But that for my business model, I thought, well, my competition hits their product out once a month, and I'm doing it every day. So there was that level of brand awareness. It was an easy sell for me to sell to a marketer in the sense of is that repetition is what sells product. I mean, not only repetition, but
being in front of them, the brand awareness.
Totally. Yeah. The constant pounding and the constant brand awareness and seeing something. Maybe the first time you see something about McDonald's, you go, okay, yeah, that looks good. Then a week later, you see an advertisement for McDonald's, you go, oh, you know what? I remember that advertisement. I'm going to go check it out. But then you forget. then the next week you see it again on the TV and you go, you know what? I meant to do that last week and I want to go right now. And so it's that level of like the brand awareness of the constant thing of doing it every day, which I think personally was incredibly effective. Also how it was archived. I mean, with a magazine, you buy it, you read it, you're not even really invested in the advertisement. You're just kind of flipping through the paper. So with this, it was interesting because I not only said, hey guys, this show is sponsored by blah, blah, blah guitar, it's also the guitar that I was playing. So you got to see it, you got to hear me play it, you got to hear how it sounds. And also, I think over time, I had a personal brand and that people were buying guitars just because I was playing it, me personally. So they were like, well, this is the guitar that Walt uses, and it sounds great, it looks great, and I think that's going to be my next guitar. So when they go and they're used to the daily music lessons, when they go to the store to buy their new guitar, what's the guitar that they think of? It's the one that they just saw their music teacher play 5 minutes ago on the internet. So I think that was very effective too. But then this all kind of went to a downward spiral where then that led to me being unemployed when my syndicators, I mean, that's a whole thing too. I didn't know if you had questions about that.
Definitely, I'm going to go there. I wanted to complete this segment before we go to the next part of the story. And
okay.
So three questions come to mind because the first one was basically, you said if in hindsight, if you'd known you'd have started like a affiliate program to kind of really track kind of your sales as a result of, having the sponsors on the show. Besides setting up an affiliate program where you're trying to sell their product on their behalf, what other ideas do you think one can actually, if one have sponsors for their show that one can use to help to really not only help to sell the product but also to track the validity of what you're doing in terms of for the client for the sponsors?
Well, today I don't think that tracking is so much of a problem now because you have like Amazon affiliate programs which, if someone buys it, you get a cut of the profit, and it's one of those things that you set it and forget it. You don't really have to worry about. So I think that's effective in terms of the accounting because that idea scales. And what I mean by that is that whether you get 1,000 viewers that day or 100,000 customers that day, you've worked just as hard, And it's effective because you're making money when you sleep, which is, I think, the real secret, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that was the one thing that I wanted to do with the affiliate program, but the reason why I never did it, and so this answers your question that we forgot about before, is that looking back at my business model, I thought, like, do I do the music lessons for free and then tour around schools and colleges and universities for, $600 for a clinic? Or do I, for example, that is my online show almost like a lost leader to build my brand as a music educator?
Yeah.
Was that the business model that I wanted to take it? Do I want to release some info, like almost like the first 5 minutes of the music lesson, then for the last 5 minutes you pay $1 or something? I thought about that concept. I didn't like that though, and then I immediately settled on the product placement idea. Because then everyone's happy. But it would be a lot of work for me, but I was fine with that. But it also goes back to the question that you asked before that we forgot to answer, is that you had said something like, what was the advertising structure or something? And
the structure. How were you placing it? In the show, middle of the show? How was that going?
It was going out through the entire day. And the way that I got sponsors is sometimes I would reach out to them. And over time, I've realized that the best way of doing it is that to do it on a monthly basis of paying $1,000 a month, and that was it, and that they would have to email me to be part of it. And, a lot of months as I started growing were getting sold out. So then that's when I started raising my price. But for the actual structure, all the 10 products were actually visible at all times throughout my show, unless it was like a book or something. Like, I sometimes had sponsored topics. So if it were, I keep going back to how to read music, but if it were a show about how to read music, then I would, have a sponsor for a book about how to read music by, Joe Schmo, and they would pay $1,000 that month, and so the whole month was centered around this book of how to read music. And if you wanted to buy it, there was a link below the video. So I would have liked to have double dipped, I guess, in hindsight, to say buy it below, and it was an Amazon affiliate link. But I mean, it's funny. It's like,
You're still getting paid anyways by the sponsorship, anyways. Yeah.
yeah, but the thing about affiliate links is that those websites are still up on, is that my videos are still archived on YouTube. So for me to go through all those 300 videos and put the Amazon affiliate links, and then to re-edit the videos and re-upload them and say, hey, buy it down here, don't buy it on their website or whatever, it would be way too much work. But I think in hindsight,
It's doable though, just so you know.
yeah, I know, it's doable. But in terms of like time, money, I don't. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm
Maybe we
like,
could
well,
talk about that, how you could do that off camera,
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I could pitch my service, but this is all about you right now. But anyways, before I get to the next segment where you changed your model, I'm also trying to find out. You said there was a lot of a lot of interaction between your audience or your community that you had online. Was this all fostered via the commenting system and the messaging system on YouTube, or did you have a different portal that people, like a website, where people actually came and engaged with you on, or your own separate forum? I'm trying to figure out what you did.
Yeah, what I did is I did something very stupid where I almost fought a land war in Asia. I had my Twitter, I had my Facebook. I was when you have a community, the one thing is that when you're doing something as a sole proprietor, as like like an LLC self-employed person, is that you want your idea to scale. So you don't want to have to put in more work as your community grows. You want to put in the same amount of work and then just kind of nurture the community. So the one thing is that I was answering students' questions in email, or students' questions via email, AOL chat, Skype. There were people that were hitting me up on Skype. I was doing Ustream, which is a live video show.
Yeah.
I was answering YouTube comments. I was affiliating with different websites. So I was answering like Revision 3 comments, Vidler comments, TubeMogul comments. I mean, I was all this stuff all day, and it's like, if I was to, and I gave out my email address, which I think is fine, but then you open up another floodgate. And so I had like 12 floodgates where every day I had to answer all these comments. There were things coming in, and I thought to myself, I'm spending 4 hours a day answering 200 emails a pop, right, every morning when I wake up. If this continually grows, how do I scale this? I mean, that idea doesn't scale. So then what I started doing is, towards like the last couple months, is I set up, I took my email address off of every website, and I said, for you to, if you have a question, post it on my website, but use the search form first before posting your question. Then 90% of my questions started going away, and then they all started getting funneled. So if I answered something, the problem with answering a student's email through Gmail, or the problem with answering a student's question through email is that when you answer it, it's not archived on the internet. You answer it, and then it goes off into space, and then if you get that same question in 3 hours, you have to answer it again.
Yeah. And so did you use a platform to actually do like a Q&A platform? What did you use?
I just had them be blog post comments underneath each video. And so then if you were to search, how do I play my C chord, not only did I have to answer less questions because it was probably their index, but a lot of times my website was the first hit for those questions. So then my website started getting more hits because I had more content that was archived on my site, which were all the questions that people were asking from the videos. So in the videos...
Wait a minute. So when someone asked you a question, you went on your website and created a separate blog post for that question. Is that what you were doing?
No, I would teach. So let's go back to the how to read music thing again. I would teach I would make a video on how to read music. I would upload it to YouTube and syndicate it to different websites. And in the video, I would say, go to waltribero.net if you want this question answered, and leave it as a blog comment, underneath the post. And so if you go to my website, you'll see that there's the video of my lesson, and at the bottom is maybe like a 1-paragraph explanation of what the video is about. and then there's maybe 10 or 12 blog comments of people asking questions that I get back and I answer them.
Yeah.
And so that's how I went about doing it, which worked out very well for me.
And one thing too is that it's all indexed. So when they go onto the website, I mean, there's index traffic that's coming on Google just by the mere fact, or even Bing or Yahoo, based on people searching questions, and your stuff already be indexed because you've answered their questions on there. But if they go on your website and just search specifically for that question, it shows them the right answer. That's
9 times out of 10. Yeah.
That's a smart way. And also, I'm curious too, is that moving forward now to the, because I want to get the whole part of the story to where you are right now in your business. Was there a middle point between what you initially started doing with having sponsors and all that? I think you had a training, you had to get a job. What was that after that?
Okay, so with the job thing is that I was doing the music lesson show, which was being syndicated to a couple websites that were paying me as an exclusive partner as their music lesson channel. Mm-hmm. So companies like Revision 3 and Ustream were paying me, which was a big part of my income and a big part of my viewership. And so let's say like I averaged, I don't even remember, I'm just going to pull a number out, maybe 10,000 viewers a day on these syndicated sites. It was much more than that, but let's say it was 10,000 people. When the recession hit back in 2000, I think it was 8 or 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2008, 2009. When like first started, like when it was like, getting at. I mean, it's still pretty bad, but it was getting there. Yeah. They started making cuts to their viewership, to their partner programs, so they stopped paying their partners. So when they stopped paying me, then a lot of my show, then my syndication dropped. So then my viewership dropped because I didn't have the syndicated partners anymore, because they dropped their partnership program because they didn't want to pay for it anymore. So then my viewership went from like, let's say 10,000 people a day to like 2,000 people a day.
Still a lot.
Still a lot, but now you have sponsors that are used to paying $1,000 a month who now only want to pay $200 a month. and meanwhile, I'm living in Manhattan. I'm living Manhattan prices. I've got, my website's getting a lot of hits, so I'm paying a lot for infrastructure for my website. Yeah. I'm paying a lot for travel because I'm still meeting up with companies. I'm paying a lot for, for a bunch of different, for a new camera. I was going HD. There was a lot of things going on. And so when that all hit, within like, I think it was maybe like a month or two, because two or three of my paid partners dropped me from their partner program. And so that was about like, I'd say maybe like 70% of my audience, of my syndication audience. So then my sponsorship started going off. And then at this point, this all started happening too at the same time that I kind of hated doing what I was doing. I was, because you get involved with it, it's funny, like that the idea of like the entrepreneurship works because you're passionate about what you want to, you're passionate about changing the world, right? You have your eyes set on something. You want to do something good to help people. The problem with me with doing the music lesson stuff is that I was becoming more of a music teacher or more of a video editor and less of a music educator, and that to me bothered me. It wasn't like day one. Day one, I had 5 students. I had 1 email a day of a question. I had a fun time teaching music lessons. And on day 400, I was editing video 12 hours a day, answering 400 emails, traveling, and I was slowly getting less and less income because of my partnership agreement. So that, upset me a lot. And I said, you know what, it's been a good run for the past year or two, but I'm going to get out of this. And then that's when I started shopping myself around with my network. This is what I'm saying. Is like it's important to stay in the industry, no matter what it is. You make less money, but you stay contact. The thing about staying in the industry isn't only about your personal mindset of staying driven and motivated, but it's also about staying in people's radars. You want to stay in that person's Rolodex. You want to email them every week because you never know when something might break. You never know when they need a music educator or when they need a director for a music company or whatever. And the person they're going to think of is the person that they spoke to last. And in the same way that I said that when that kid goes to buy the guitar, the guitar he's going to think of when he goes to buy a guitar is the last one that he saw. Yeah. So you always want to make sure that you're the last person that person spoke to. So you stay in the industry because you always want to be in people's eyesights, and that's it. So I started shopping myself around, started talking to like people that I was connecting with. I was like, listen, is there any, here's what I've done. I would love to, work for your music company as a director, doing a lot of, social media stuff. This is how I've grown my company. I've been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Wired Magazine, LA Times. Here's the stuff that I've done. There's a lot that I can offer for you. After maybe like 6 months or so, or maybe not 6 months, maybe like 3 or 4 months when my show was winding down, I got an opportunity from my friend Jody, who was stepping down from her job as the director of a music award company, and she put me in as her referral to take her place. I went in for the job interview. I loved it. It was awesome. And then they said, when can you start? And then by the next week, I started the job, and then I stopped doing the music lesson show.
Okay, and so that's when you got the job, but I'm trying to connect them to where we are now at, where it's your current model for your business, which is fororchestra.com. So, yeah. Can you connect the dots for us?
Yeah, so I was working at the music award company as their director of music. I was doing like, I was helping like oversee like their iPhone app being built. I was working with bands and with sponsorships for them. And after 6 months, it's funny, how like it kind of keeps on coming, is that they gave me the pink slip in 6 months because they cut 3 or 4 of their staff members, and because I was the newest one, I was one of the people that they cut. But a month before they cut me, that's when I started For Orchestra, because I kind of saw that they were going to kind of drop me. I kind of saw that they were like talking about like how tough the climate was, and I forget what happened. I think that they had laid someone off, but it wasn't an employee. I think it was one of our part-time contractors. They stopped working with them. And having just saw that my syndicators for my music lesson show dropped me 6 months earlier, and I kind of knew that the industry...
There's a trend coming, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, everyone was making cuts, and I was like, well, what should I do? So then I started For Orchestra. I set up the blog. This is on May, I think, 2009. And then June 2009 is when I got cut from the music lesson show. So then, from day one of getting cut, at that point, I was on unemployment. I was collecting unemployment checks, and my back was against the wall of trying to make For Orchestra of my income.
And so how exactly did you do that now? Now we're talking about specifically your current business.
Yeah, so, right. Well, my current business is For Orchestra. I went from the music lesson show, I went from the CD to the music lesson show, then to the music award company, and then after getting laid off there, then I started doing For Orchestra. And the way that so your question is how did I go about doing it full time?
Actually, what is exactly For Orchestra, and then how exactly did you turn this opportunity into now your full-time business and what it is today?
Okay, so the way that and this is the same thing of what I was doing for the music lesson show, is that people tend to always want the responses to be immediate. I mean, we live in a very fast culture. We're used to text messaging, making a phone call. If you have an idea for a book, you self-publish it within a couple months, because you don't need to do manufacturing, marketing, distribution. You don't need big machines now. You can do everything through the internet. So I think that we live in a very fast-paced world with this big turnaround time that I keep talking about. And so the idea of For Orchestra came to me, and that when I made my first dollar, it was maybe like, I think it was like the first month. It took me like a month to make $10 or something. In the same way that my music lesson show took me about 5 months to make my first $50. So I think people have to learn how to be patient, and that this is also a big part, and this is where I'm headed. This is where I'm heading with the story, is that I always felt like that if I could make $10 off of a business idea, then I can make $10,000 off it. The only difference is that there's a couple more zeros, which the way that you get those zeros is is that you scale your idea. So when I made my first $50 off the music lesson show, I said, well, if I can make $50, I can make $50,000, and then I did. But the way that I get to that $50,000 is I have 10 sponsors instead of one, and I do $1,000 a month instead of $50 a month. So I mean, and that you get 20,000 subscribers instead of one. So you slowly grow the idea, and that first strike of blood, like when you see that it can happen, that's kind of like your motivation to keep on, attacking.
Yeah.
So, that's it. It was just one of those things where I was like, oh my God, I just paid $10 on selling my orchestra music. Let's keep on doing this. So then,
But the
I
idea
started.
for the orchestra music before it was you were teaching
Oh,
people how
right.
to how to create music. But the idea for now turning into a thing where I think the idea now is you have any new popular music comes out, you turn it into an orchestra and a classical version of it. But where did that idea come from? That's what I'm trying
Gotcha.
to figure
I
out.
thought you were talking about how did I create the revenue? Where okay. So 2006, I released my orchestra CD, but it was my own orchestra music. So it was all originals. And looking back on 2009, 2010, when I got laid off, it's funny how back years ago, at the time, it was a tough, I think, experience to go through. But in hindsight, you realize that those tough experiences are what makes you smarter for the next time around. So in 2009, 2010, I started looking into like, why did that fail? Why did that CD fail in 2006? Well, the artwork was horrible, so it wasn't visually, seductive. Like you didn't want to pick it up in the store. I also paid way too much for distribution. I paid way too much for manufacturing. You know, and I thought that the marketing was bad. It wasn't. There was nothing about it that was fun, and the orchestrations were bad. Like my actual abilities of arranging music for orchestra was bad, which I went to school for that. I went to school for music orchestration, and and then also. Wait, what was it? It was the orchestration, marketing, manufacturing, distribution. Well, whatever. I mean, the whole thing. Oh, and then the actual content was bad. I mean, it was my own orchestra music, but no one cares even
About your
this
stuff.
much about Walt Ribero stuff. They care about Lady Gaga, Bon Jovi, Madonna, Justin Bieber, MGMT, Radiohead, Michael Jackson. So I thought to myself, I was like, okay. The way that I'm going to fix distribution is I'm going to only do online sales. Therefore, I don't pay for distribution. Large trucks, mail, all that stuff. I was like, I'm going to cut it. I'm not getting involved with it. The way I fixed with the manufacturing was the same thing. Is that I said, if I only do digital sales, then I don't have to print up CDs and vinyl and different things like that. I'm not going to worry about the artwork. I mean, I'm going to do the artwork, but I'm going to make it like professional, like really good pictures. So then before it was like kind of hand-drawn stuff. So I started talking to artists, and I got all that really well done. It looks really good. Then I worked on the content. I said, instead of me arranging a Walt Ribero track, let me arrange other people's music. And everyone's favorite subject is themselves.
Yeah.
So if you're passionate, and not passionate, I think that word gets tossed around a lot, but that if you love the music of Elvis Presley or Rebecca Black or Michael Jackson, or no matter what it is, if you like that music and you hear that someone did an orchestral arrangement of it, then you are already invested in it, even before you find out who Walt Ribero is, or you read his blog or his liner notes about the music or whatever. So I did all those things one after the other. And I first did it with a musician whose name was Jonathan Colton, which is a big musician in Brooklyn, Manhattan, in Brooklyn, New York, and it kind of took off pretty well. His community wanted more. They, wanted to know where they could get his stuff. So then that's it. I just did one after the next. I think the next week I did Lady Gaga, so that kind of hit.
Wow.
Yeah, the next week, because this is a couple years ago before Lady Gaga was even big, so I kind of hit at the right time.
Yeah.
And now I'm on week 70, and I've skipped a couple weeks, whether it was for vacation or, if I was traveling for business and I couldn't get out a song. But I've been doing it for about a year. I'd say about about 2.5 years now, maybe 2 years now. And I'm on week 71 right now.
So it's safe to say that right now you have actually at least recouped the initial investment of the 15,000 that you lost when you started out this idea, but a different version of it.
Yeah. And that feels good. It feels good to not only recoup your investment, but to also recoup your business idea.
Yeah.
Because like recouping your investment, I could work at Burger King recouping my investment, But it was good that the failure that I had in 2006 is what gave me, yeah, like I gave another shot, and so then it kind of worked out. But it's funny. It's like I was making a steady income on my unemployment checks, and the first month I made $10, and then the next month I would submit to my unemployment, like tax base and say, well, this month I made, $50, but there's a certain I forget what it was. This is a couple years ago. There's a threshold of the amount of money that you can make coming in before you can actually get off of unemployment. And so it was like maybe like 3 or 4 weeks before my unemployment checks had ran out was when I finally broke the threshold of not having to, when I couldn't be dependent on unemployment anymore. So my unemployment was steady, and I was making more and more money of revenue, not of net profit, but of revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I was making enough money to kind of pay for different things. I was still losing money though at this point. My revenue was less than my overall expenses because I was paying a lot for licensing fees for the music. I was still traveling to go meet with the orchestras. I still had maybe like a nightlife of like going out with friends, trying to experience new things, to be not so much just inspired, but just to have a life. It's like, like you don't want to just be living in a, like a cell all day. So, like that level, and that finally after I think it was maybe like a year and a half or 2 years, I was finally profitable after having done the business.
And curious, though, are you comfortable talking about the revenues at that point of
yeah.
where you are right now? If you're okay with that, go ahead.
Yeah. So my revenues of the past month were about $5,000. So out of 12 months, that's an average of about $50,000 to $60,000 a year, which is really good for a startup company with no venture capital. At least from my perspective. But the first month I made $10. The next month I made $1,000. But then, or next month I made maybe a couple hundred. But when you scale the idea, I always talk about this idea of how everything is exponential, and that the way to win is you just keep on hammering away at the rock. Like you keep on chipping away at it. And so when you continually grow your company, not only does your community get bigger, but your website, your SEO, like people start finding out about you more. And so that idea gets bigger. Also, your product, the long tail of your product gets bigger, because the business model for my company, what I have now, is not in week 50. The business model for my company is week 500, because when you go to buy a Lady Gaga song in week 200, and you see that I also did 10 other Lady Gaga songs, and within the past 5 years. You'll probably buy, and I've seen this happen many times now, is that you'll buy
the whole collection,
the old collection, or maybe you'll buy themes. Like, you buy a Lady Gaga song, and I have an algorithm that says if you like this song, you might also like these other artists, whether it's Britney Spears
Amazon way.
or Miley Cyrus. Yeah. So the first 5 or 10 weeks was tough because no one wants to buy your music because they don't know if it's a scam. You don't really have much of a library. It's difficult to get licensing deals because the publishers don't know who you are. So then your networking starts getting better. You start networking more with the music publishers. You start understanding the business end of it. You start becoming more efficient. Your community starts growing, and then your affiliate programming on that sense also grows now. Because now I'm on Pandora, I'm on iTunes, I'm on Amazon, I'm on Spotify. I'm on iTunes Europe. I'm on, every major online distributor.
I also think that with your knowledge of syndication, we might have to a separate interview on how to syndicate content. Because if I include this to this interview, we're gonna go for another 1 hour.
Well, you know what? It's like I don't really think that syndication is that difficult. I mean, with syndication, it goes back to like would I rather make 10% of a big pool or 100% of nothing, and it just goes back to like just make a phone call, or maybe find a company that does the syndication for you. They get a cut of the profits. Who cares? Let them keep 50%, 30%, and just continually grow the company. I'd rather make 50% working with this company. I'd rather this company keep 50% of all my sales with their affiliate companies than for me to have to go out and do it on my own because it's way too much of a pain to do it
Yeah, and it
all.
also helps to build the brand. And who knows, that person who comes via that company can refer somebody that comes to you directly anyway. So it still helps
Absolutely.
to build the sale one way or the other.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. And I've been trying to figure out what should I even title this interview. I've been thinking, okay, should I, since we spend a lot of time, focusing on, how to get sponsors. I said, should I title it this? But maybe we might have to talk about that off camera. What I should title this. But my thing too is anybody who's been listening to this so far has learned through all your the failures that you've had and how your story, your initial failure now turns to something that is not what you're focusing on in your current business, and you found the model that works. In order to actually, I guess there's a trend of failure and then being able to be persistent to learn from that failure and make the changes and to iterate or pivot as they call it. So what is that one thing that before we go, that you can leave with someone who's listening to the interview as to how to indeed learn from their failure and turn it into something that ends up being profitable, I guess.
Well, okay, so there's a couple quotes that I really like. I mean, my favorite quote ever is "If it scares you, do it." And so I mean, sure, like there's so many people who do what I do but better, right? I mean, is that you can't overthink everything that you do. Is that when you're on unemployment, you go. I mean, for me, I was fortunate that I didn't have a family. I didn't have a home mortgage. I mean, I'd rent, which is, I guess, maybe almost
Yeah,
more
it's
expensive
something.
than a
Yeah,
home mortgage. Because Manhattan's expensive. It's like it's like 1,500 bucks a month for a
there's
rent in
mortgages
Manhattan.
in some states. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I didn't really have like a home mortgage. I didn't have a wife or kids, or really I didn't really have much of like um, what's the word? I didn't have too many chains attached to me. So I think that was a big part of why it was okay for me to take a big risk. If it didn't work out, then it didn't work out. Then I moved back, in South Jersey, or try and make it work. But I feel like a big part of the idea of failure and then success is the only way. Like people tend to wait. Like they wait forever. They go, oh, I just got to wait until next month when all the stars are lined up. Then I can take the big risk. Well, the best time to do something is right this second because you don't know what's going to happen in a month. And so the only way that you're going to learn, period, is from taking a risk and failing. So if you want to learn that bad, then stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is now. And if you really want to learn that bad, then try and step out and make a failure. I mean, that's the only way that you're going to learn from these things. And so that's the only way that I think that you can really go about doing it. You know.
Wow. Thanks very much, man. I really appreciate you doing this interview. And how best can anyone who's listening to this get a hold of you?
Oh, you can type in Lady Gaga Orchestra on Google. I mean, I'll show up. You can type, but my website is fororchestra.com, and that's FOR orchestra.com. And the way that I came up with that website name is that we arrange pop songs for orchestras. So it's just for orchestra, we arrange pop songs for orchestras, so it's fororchestra.com.
Thank you very much, Walt. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks, Owen.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. And before you go, I want you to do me a favor. I'm trying to build my community of entrepreneurs who find my content useful on Facebook so we can engage, have discussions live right there on Facebook. And to get to my page on Facebook, you go to www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And again, it's www.com. What am I saying? No, it's www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And when you get there, what you're going to do is look for a button that says like, and you click on that button, and then basically you become a fan of the page. It's that simple. You don't even have to leave me your email. Just click on the button that says like. And again, the page to go to is www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And that stands for HYVAssistant. Real easy. I look forward to seeing you on Facebook. Have a great day.